watching Mary Seacole's Youth Voices podcast, which is funded by Bedfordshire's Veru, and this is to give young people a voice. Today, we have a guest speaker from Stepping Stones who will be speaking to us about domestic violence in relationships, and we will also be discussing how some celebrity relationships can influence young people's decision-making when in relationships. Hi, we have Sharon here from Stepping Stones. How are you?
I'm good, you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. It's good to meet you.
You too. So how long have you been at Stepping Stones, first of all?
So I have been working at Stepping Stones for just over 5 years now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what is it that made you work at Stepping Stones or influenced you to work at Stepping Stones?
So I was previously a client at Stepping Stones, and once I had completed my programme of support, when a job position came up, I applied for it and was put into position.
Oh, wow. I really love that because you were able to, I wouldn't say give back, but give your experience, I suppose, because you've experienced it. And I feel like it's so much easier for somebody to experience something and get that advice from somebody who's gone through it, as opposed to just somebody you just think, oh, you're just trying to be nice. Yeah, you're just here to work. And it's like, no, like I've been through this. I know the steps. I know what you need to do. Yeah. So I really, really love that.
Absolutely. And it definitely creates it's easier to form a connection with women who have similar experiences, because they know that you understand and they know that you get it, and it's easier to then assure them that actually everything that they're thinking and feeling is normal. Yeah. And that they're going to be okay. So I find that quite helpful.
I love that, because it must have some anxieties attached to it as well.
Absolutely.
So based on the question I asked before, what is it that Stepping Stones actually does?
So Stepping Stones is a charity that supports women and their families who have experienced domestic abuse or have what is called the toxic trio, so domestic abuse, drugs and alcohol, mental health. So we help these women to empower themselves through holistic support and emotional support, and help them to empower themselves to move on with their lives.
I like that. Holistic support is really important. I feel like we live in a world where everything's like medication and this and that, and it's like, no, like we need to actually combat the real issue. So
absolutely. Sometimes the medication, I find, masks the problem. It doesn't actually solve what's going on. It's just it's like sticking a plaster over a big wound, you know. It's going to hold it together a little bit, but it's not actually going to help to heal. So the holistic side of it is very important, I feel.
Oh, go Stepping Stones. Over the years, we have seen many a celebrity relationship play out in the media, from Bobby and Whitney to Chris Brown and Rihanna to now Krishan and Blueface. We went out and spoke to the young people to gain their views on domestic violence in relationships. What do you believe a healthy relationship is?
Well, it will consist of love, loyalty, respect, mutual understanding, and also compromise.
A healthy relationship is like someone not going around beating up their partner or abusing them, like mentally or physically, like mentally more than physically.
Being able to feel like you both have an importance in a relationship. Being able to feel like that person's always going to help you, and they're always going to stand by you regardless of what wrong or right that you do, and they'll always help to back your decision. Being able to feel that that person will always be the number one person you call in a crisis.
Healthy relationship, there needs to be a lot of communication, understanding the other person, and they might not have the same needs and wants as you. You need to like kind of take that into consideration.
A healthy relationship is when you and the person have trust with each other, you can communicate with each other and be open and honest, and also live your independent lives while coexisting.
Listening, taking accountability, trust, honesty, laughter, jokes, and a situation where if you're doing something wrong, they can correct you on your rubbish, basically. So they can call you out. Do you see what I'm saying? So you can better yourself. That's what a healthy relationship is to me.
Just respect. You've just got to respect each other, the boundaries, really, because at the end of the day, you're not the same person. As though people say you're one, you're not. You are still two different people.
I believe a healthy relationship is love and happiness and laughter.
I believe a healthy relationship is where you can communicate with one another, have loyalty towards each other and love one another.
I think it's common knowledge that celebrity relationships seen in the media are never as perfect as they seem. However, this image does distort what a healthy relationship should be and can mess with young people's views, giving false hopes. In my opinion, a healthy relationship, whether it be platonic or romantic, each person should give as much as the other person should and create a balance of responsibilities and care.
So, after hearing what the young people have to say, in your view, what is a healthy relationship to you?
So a healthy relationship would be one where there is compromise, understanding, compassion for each other. You have to be able to pick up that that extra percent when your other half is not doing so good. It's about that equaling each other out. You have to equal each other out. You should be able to talk to whoever you want to without any repercussions. You should be able to go out without any repercussions. You should be able to do things together and separately, and not have to worry about what that other person's going to think or feel. Yeah. Every time you step out the door, or what it's going to be like coming home, and if that person's going to be in a bad mood, and if you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells, they're signs of unhealthy relationships. Yeah. And it's about understanding and getting to know each other and growing with each other. That's what a healthy relationship entails.
I love that. I think for me, based on what the young people have said, it's always been the same, but based on what they've said, to sum it up, for me, a healthy relationship is something that has a friendship foundation. They were and these people, some of these young people are like under 18, and they're talking about, being called out on their stuff as well, like being held accountable on both ends. I call it checking me in private but having my back in public. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they have an understanding of that. They have an understanding of mental abuse as well, because some people think that abuse is just physical, but it can be psychological, which sometimes can end up worse, because some people end up with mental health issues based on the fact that they've had this treatment as well. I really feel like a lot of the things that they touched on were really, really good. So one of the things that the young people said, as I mentioned before, was about being called out or being held accountable. And I feel like all too often, sometimes abuse in a relationship comes from not necessarily what somebody's saying, but the way that they deliver it to you. And that then being a continuous cycle where they think that they can talk to you anyhow that they want to. Yeah, so what would you say in an ideal situation, what would be the best way then, or that you would like to be spoken to? So if somebody was delivering something, I don't like you doing blah blah blah.
Yeah. So when it comes to communication is key, and language that we use and the terminology that we use can be very, very powerful and impactful, so it's about learning yourself and understanding that words hurt a lot, and they can cut really deep. Yeah. And long after you've forgotten what you've said and moved on from it, that other person's still thinking about those horrible things that you've said, and that stays with someone. So it's about understanding, actually, we need to own our actions, we need to own our words. And if you have a problem within your relationship and you feel like, okay, I need to talk to my partner about this and we need to sort this out, it's about owning that and saying, when this happens, it makes me feel this way. I feel like this when this occurs. So you're owning it, and no one can tell you that your feelings are wrong. So if you're using that I statement and owning your feelings, no one can tell you that it's wrong. And it's also about, there's work out there about fair fighting guidelines. I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
No, I haven't.
So fair fighting guidelines it's basically fighting by mutual consent. And when I say fighting, I mean arguing verbally. I don't mean physical, because physical is never okay. But even in a healthy relationship, people argue, you have disagreements. We're not cut from the same cloth. No one is the same, and two people coming from two different walks of life come together to form a relationship. You're going to have differences, regardless of whether it's healthy or not, So there are arguments within healthy relationships, but it's about actually understanding that it's you two against the problem, not you two against each other.
Oh, I love that.
You know, and, you know, so when you're fighting fair, you don't drag up things from the past that have happened. If you've accepted that, and, you know, you've accepted that apology and decided to stay in that relationship, you have to let that go. You have to let that stuff go. You can't keep bringing it up over and over again, because that's when it becomes abusive.
Yeah, because it's like you're punishing the
person
for a mistake, and we're human, so we're going to make mistakes.
Absolutely, you know. And if you, for example, if your partner has had an affair or an indiscretion, and you actively choose, after knowing that information, you choose to stay in that relationship and try to make it work, you then can't, the minute you have an argument, keep bringing that up, because that's not fair. If you can't get over it, then you have to make the, you know, the other decision, and that is to leave. You can't keep bringing things like that up, because it's just not right. So I mean, you know, communication is essential, and the way that we speak to each other on a day-to-day basis, the terminology that is used is you know, monumental to a relationship working.
Yeah.
So
I really love that. We went out and spoke to the young people to gain their views. When looking at celebrity relationships, do you believe that they influence your views?
Not me personally, no. I don't look to celebrities for influence or anything, to be honest.
100%. People, I feel like social media has a lot of impact on relationships. People see, oh, he bought her, blah, blah, blah. But like, you've got to take into consideration, your partner might not have the same funds to take you out or spend money on you or do all these things. And I feel like celebrities post what you want to see, not what like needs to be seen.
Yeah, I definitely think it can easily influence anyone's views, because you only see certain sides of relationships depending on what people want to show you, so then it gives unrealistic expectations of what to expect in a relationship.
No. I feel like a lot of celebrity relationships are fake. And I feel that because you don't see the full side of the relationship, you only see what they post on social media.
Nah, not one bit. Because celebrities, they're all doing stuff for like publicity and all that, innit? So I don't look at that and think, oh yeah, that's what I want my relationship to be. So no.
No, not all the time. Depends on how their relationship is. If they've got like a good, healthy relationship, then it makes you feel like you need to have that. You feel like you want that in your own life.
Watching celebrities' relationships change people's views that they normalise being toxic. I don't believe that celebrities influence my relationship.
Some celebrity couples are glorified more than others in the media, but in total, I believe that whether they have a good or bad coverage, they do have an influence on young people, especially with the way the couple looks together in appearances and dress sense.
Me personally, I don't care. I don't. Why are they getting headlines because of their relationships? Because they're famous. Doesn't make the difference. Doesn't make any difference to me.
So, based on what the young people have said there, do you think that celebrity relationships influence young people and shape the way that they view how relationships should be?
Absolutely. I mean, especially within today's society and the technology that is available, you know, and social media, we have a lot more access to celebrities now, more than we ever did, you know. So we're seeing a lot more. And if you look at the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case, where the defamation case, you know, and she was defecating over his bed and things like that, you know, that's all signs of abuse. But then also and there was a lot of onus put onto that. But if you look at the text messages that Johnny Depp was sending her, calling her all sorts of horrible names, you know, that actually shows traits of abuse as well. So neither one of those were innocent, but everyone was very much on Amber Heard. And it was kind of like a witch hunt, you know. But people see this and they think that it's glamorous and it's, you know, it's glamorized, and, you know, everything within the social media and within the news outlets. So I do feel that it has a lot of influence on young people's relationships.
Yeah, I really agree. I think that with the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, I think with that situation, that's what I would just call like an overall toxic relationship.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to there's a guy called Blueface. I don't know if he's a rapper, and his partner, she's called Sharon, and it's very similar where they're both very like,
right,
when they're together it's great, but then there are times where it's very toxic. She's fighting his mum and his sister, he's fighting her dad, like it's very, and because it's on social media, some celebrities do try to keep it behind, and you only do see the good, you know what I'm saying? And you see couple goals and all of that kind of thing, and you see the images and you're like, oh, that's lovely, and you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Could be the opposite. But then some celebrities, it's like they're just out there with it, what we say, out and bad with it, where they're just showing everything. And sometimes it's like young people are looking at this, and that can even become glamorized because they think, well, they're rich and they're this, and they associate success with a toxic relationship. That's what I genuinely believe, because the media gives it so much airtime and so much clout. That's why I think that it's starting to become glamorized. Not because I think young people are stupid and just watching celebs, but do you know what I'm saying? It's given a lot of airtime and a lot of clout.
Absolutely. It's, and you know, with young women and young girls, they will, because men are perceived to be the alpha of the relationship. So if he's not getting jealous over me talking to another guy, he doesn't care, and things like that. And this is portrayed within movies, you know, and within celebrity relationships that are seen in social media. There's a lot that we're taking on board unconsciously, and you know, with the societal context and social media, and then you have cultures and everything that comes into it. So there's a lot that influences the way that young people perceive healthy relationships.
We spoke to some young people. This is some of the stuff that they had to say. Do you believe that domestic abuse is normalised through some celebrity relationships?
Yes, I think so, because you'll hear about, for example, back in the day when it was Rihanna and Chris Brown, everyone was like jumping on that because it was such a big thing, and then it was died down in like probably 2 months or a month. So I think so.
I'm sure you guys have heard of Sharon and Blueface. They are in a domestic violence relationship, and it's almost pushed in the media as something positive, and they're quite influential people to young people. And then obviously we have the likes of the shows such as Love and Hip Hop, which promote that type of lifestyle as something that people should look forward to.
I wouldn't say normalised, but I would definitely say there's common. I don't feel like it should be a thing where anyone should be able to put their hands on anyone in a relationship. It's not fair.
Depends on which celebrities they are, and if there's like a professional like football player or something like that, it might influence people's life of thinking, oh, if they can do it because they're a celebrity, it's okay for a normal person to do it as well. And then, but when it's not actually okay to do it, you get they have to deal with the consequences.
Most definitely. I feel like we look at celebrities as they're not human, as a sort of like they're just puppets. But they're actually like human beings, that they go through the same struggles as we do. And I feel like people would laugh at someone's pain online, but when it's happening to them in real life, it's like a complete different story. So yeah, I feel like we've been kind of desensitized to a lot of things.
Yes, I think so, because in a lot of toxic relationships, it just seems normalised that that's the behaviour that's happening, and then people don't really call it out and allow it to happen when really those kind of things shouldn't happen, whether that's in TV or whatever, or in person.
I do believe that domestic abuse is normalised through some celebrity relationships, but I don't think they mean to. I just think they're very open with their love life on social media. I think some celebrity relationships are really bad. For an example, Christian Rock and Blueface are very abusive to one another.
Definitely.
No, but it is publicised, and that is a way of glamorising it, but that'd only be to the people involved, not everyone else.
I don't think it is normalised, instead more of a sort of let off. For example, Chris Brown, despite the abuse he caused in the past, he is still a successful artist today. I don't think that he got fully punished for his actions.
So one of the things that I do want to touch on with regards to it is, again, the normalization of, you know, abuse in celebrity relationships. And I feel like when you compare some to the others, I feel like some relationships, it isn't always normalized. If we do take the Chris Brown and the Rihanna, the minute that happened, they were like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
he did this and da-da-da. And I feel like it was actually like dealt with in a way where it's like, no, that is wrong. That is not the way that you do things. He did though speak about in his documentary that she actually had laid hands on him and he had retaliated. And I feel like one thing I will say when it comes to especially celebrities as well is that we pay a lot of attention to women being abused, but not also men being abused.
Absolutely. You know, and men are victims of domestic abuse as much as, well, not as much as women, but they are male victims of domestic abuse. What I struggle with sometimes is that perpetrators of domestic abuse will blame the victim. Like, for example, the Chris Brown and Rihanna, you said that he come out in his documentary and said that actually she laid hands on him. The only people that will ever know what really happened there is him and her. Because, you know, perpetrators of domestic abuse will sometimes blame the victim and say she started it as a way to vindicate themselves for reacting. But the matter of the fact is you reacted and laid your hands on her. So if you weren't that way inclined, you would have walked away. You would have left that scene and removed yourself, you know.
And with that part, that's the part where I agree, is the fact that regardless of what happened, you could have taken control of the situation and actually been like, all right.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I'll move on. I'll move forward.
But then you made yourself be in the wrong.
Yes.
By
Absolutely.
doing that.
So
and
now
that's the
we will never know
part.
whether you were the victim or the perpetrator, because it's your word against hers, but she was the one that come out worse off with the bruises and, you know, and everything else. So I think that one is kind of we'll never know. We'll never know. But I definitely do believe that it is normalised. It's normalised through music as well, you know, and all the celebrities that are singing these songs about, you know, slapping women and calling them all sorts of names. It's normalised and it's derogatory towards women.
So now we will be introducing our next guest on Mary Seacole's Youth Voices podcast, Amina. Hi Amina, welcome to Mary Seacole's Youth Voices. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Wonderful. So can you please tell us about yourself and your experience?
So my name's Amina. My experience of unhealthy relationships started at home with dysfunctional relationships growing up as a child. And it wasn't until I found myself at Mary Seacole that I realised that there was something wrong with that. That was also the first time that I had the headspace to process what that meant for me. And further, like this put me on the trajectory for healing and building better relationships in my life. And whilst I was on this journey, I found myself in an abusive relationship, which allowed me to connect further with my idea of what a healthy or unhealthy relationship is.
Okay. And what kind of unhealthy experiences did you have within that relationship? Was it physical or was it psychological, the way that they spoke to you? Was it verbal?
Yeah, it was a physically and emotionally damaging relationship. And I didn't realise until I was with this person that this was a behaviour that was normal to me.
Yeah.
So I thought that, for example, if this behaviour in that person reminded me of of a person in my home, like a parent figure, and that was a good thing until I was in that situation and I realised that was a red flag.
Yeah, because you were then experiencing it.
You know, and I do recognise today, obviously, I've been away from the situation for a very long time, and I realised that it wasn't until I chose that, maybe subconsciously, that I was able to actually realise and, you know, choose for myself that actually I don't want a partner to be like that.
Yeah.
Or I don't want my relationships, even if they're not romantic,
yeah.
to be in the way that I've experienced them, well, most of my life, actually.
Yeah. So we actually spoke to the young people, and I don't know if you heard some of the things that they said, but we asked them. So I'm going to ask you, what is a healthy relationship to you?
To me, a healthy relationship, and I must say, like, to me, it doesn't matter whether it's romantic or not, but a healthy relationship to me is a safe space, a safe space to be yourself, a safe space to make mistakes, but definitely a safe space to, I feel like saying rectify, but you know what I'm saying? We make mistakes, but we do something about it. What's the next best thing?
Yeah.
That's, I think, essentially, a safe relationships to me today is a safe space. Yeah.
I like that though when you say rectify, because it's about growth. I think in relationships you're supposed to elevate and grow with one another.
And we're humans, we're going to let each other down.
Exactly. And ourselves as well, because people make mistakes. But I really like that you touched on that. So based on your experience with an abusive relationship, how has that affected your life? Both good and bad. I mean, has it affected in terms of like decision making in future relationships since then? And how has your life also turned around since then as well?
I would say that it definitely has had an impact in my life in both good and bad ways. I'd say that it's allowed me or made me to be more conscious in my relationships. So, you know, if I feel like something isn't right, you know, before waiting to justify why something doesn't feel right, I'm going to sit with that. Actually, that didn't feel right.
Yeah.
You know, so before we, you know, make a decision in haste or maybe a judgment in haste, you know, I'm going to give myself that credit that actually I feel like something isn't right, because we're quick to kind of fob off our instinct. And I think that every single one of us as humans has an instinct.
Yeah.
And it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
Obviously, sometimes other stuff like anxiety, past experiences can play a part and, you know, run havoc with your instincts. But before that, I think we should definitely give that time to, you know, be like, okay, I'm feeling like something isn't right. It has made me more wary, obviously. I've been alone, you know, ever since. But I don't see that as a bad thing. I think it's really important to take the time and not rush into commitments, you know. I feel like our society portrays being in a committed relationship as a really good thing, and I'm sure that it is a really good thing. But if it's healthy, if you're committed to someone who is maybe committed to misunderstanding you, then that's not going to be really healthy.
No, it's not. And what are you doing now?
So I'm currently employed by Mary Seacole, and I get to help other people that have been in similar situations to me. And I think that it's, I'm really grateful for the opportunity, and I think it's definitely a very active way to give back, you know.
Yeah.
I get to listen to other people, and I get to also, maybe support other people as well in situations when that I've walked through previously.
Yeah. Do you feel like your experiences has kind of happened almost to bring you to this point to help other people who've experienced these things? Obviously, it's unfortunate when we go through hard times and difficult situations in our lives, but as you said, like, you're able to help people now. So do you feel like everything happens for a reason?
Absolutely.
In some way?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I think that, you know, things happen for a reason, and when we can turn our pain into like a power to fuel a change, I think it can be a really, really good, you know, incentive for everyone.
Can we all just say that? Pain into power. Can we say that? Pain into
into
power. Do you have any final words or any advice for anybody that's going through an experience like that, through an abusive relationship?
Absolutely. So I would say look out for the warning signs, look out for the red flags. Don't ignore your instincts, don't ignore your gut feeling, especially within women. That's your women's intuition, and she is never wrong. Follow it. I would say get help as soon as possible. Once you've recognised that it is domestic abuse or it's unhealthy, get that support put in place for yourself, and learn to love yourself and love yourself truly and grow from it.
What about yourself, Amina? Do you have any final words or advice?
Yeah, I'd say that, actually it's been really good, to touch on such an important topic. And I think that definitely, what's around us, what we consume every day really plays a big part on the decisions and choices that we're going to make. So 100% being more mindful and conscious of what we're listening to, reading, of course that's going to come with time. Yeah. But I think it's good to challenge yourself, and it's good to challenge others, because growth happens there.
Wonderful. Well, I would just like to say, based on what you said as well, self-love to me is the best love. And I feel like when you love yourself and you actually cater to certain things for yourself, if somebody else tries to steal your joy, it's almost impossible. Absolutely. Because you already love yourself so much, and you're able to put those boundaries in place where even if they think they can cross it from the jump, you're actually like, you can't cross that boundary. And that sets a tone.
To make excuses for their behaviour, because you're less accepting of it.
Yes.
And it's when we make excuses for bad behaviour that the bad behaviour continues. So we need to start actually calling it what it is. It's not okay, and ending it then and there.
Yeah, because then what growing up, my parents would say, when like you're younger and you're doing something, they're nipping it in the bud so that you don't then continue to think that it's okay. Absolutely. And even though both men and women do experience abusive relationships, I feel like with men, you often hear, men are creatures of habit, they say. And so I feel like if you let them know from the jump, then that will actually change the way that they maneuver around you and the way that they treat you because of what you're allowing. And even though it's hard, if you do it from the beginning, I think that it's based on what you do allow and don't allow.
Absolutely. And, that is a big part in it. And if you are less inclined to allow it from the get-go, if they are an abusive person, they won't stick around long.
No.
Because they will see that they're not able to control, they're not able to manipulate, so there's nothing there for them, there's no gain.
Precisely.
And you will know from that whether they are the right person or not for you.
I agree with that. I've seen somebody that's actually been in a relationship where in one relationship they're abusive, but in the other they're actually completely different.
Yeah.
Have you seen that before? And you're like, hold on a minute, like you used to do X, Y, and Z to this person, but it's based on what that person allowed them to do. And actually, sometimes it's actually helped them grow as a person as well, because I'm still about growth and stuff. Some people are young when they go through these situations where it's like, okay, we can't really judge them based on who they were like 10, 15 years ago because they were teenagers or early 20s. Do you know what I'm saying? But I feel like it's all about growth and elevation.
Absolutely.
In the relationship.
And they have to be open to that, because otherwise, they will just continue with that same mentality into adulthood. So it's about the person that is being abusive being open to that growth and understanding that actually change needs to happen. Precisely. And it can happen. It takes a lot of hard work, but it can happen. It's a battle of ego,
and
they have to own that.
Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for coming through out of your busy schedules to actually come and discuss this, because this is something that's really important. Absolutely. I think for young people to be aware of from the jump, so that they know how to make healthy decisions in relationships.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for us here at Mary Seacole's Youth Voices podcast. Until next time.